Here we are, Pete McPherson. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Other than the fact that I just caught you right after lunch, so you're pretty exhausted. So hopefully we can keep you awake for this
It's
chat.
okay. I'm just drowsy over here. No, I'll be awake. I'll be fine, man. I can pump
Tough
up
it out.
gas. Yeah,
That's
we
it.
can do this.
Where are you at today?
Northern Michigan, at home. Born and raised in Georgia, USA, but we moved up here about 4.5 years ago. My wife took a job. The weather is absolutely perfect. It's stunning. It's like 72 degrees and sunny with a nice breeze, and the dog's here. We just got back from a walk. Yeah, man, I'm at home where I'd
Nice.
like to work.
It's it's funny. It just reminded me of something when you started talking about the weather. Years ago, I used to teach English in Japan, and in one of these lessons within the textbook, it was basically talking about the challenges of a non-English speaker Japanese person trying to start a conversation with an American. And in this notebook, it said that the Japanese person said, "Well, how do I don't know what to talk about with Americans. What do I talk about?" And the response was, "Talk about the weather, because Americans love talking about the weather." I don't know why I remember this little section of the book, but ever
Yeah.
since I read that textbook, like back in 2007, anytime I talk to an American and they bring up the weather, I'm like, damn, that book was freaking right.
You probably would not know that we have like 1,000 podcast recordings between the two of us, I'm sure. And here we are talking about the weather.
So
The
funny.
audience is like, all right, it's great.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. Well, you know what? I think a lot of our listeners don't care about American weather or the weather in northern Michigan. They want to learn all about your area of expertise, which is AI and SEO and all that jazz. So we're going to get into that today. But maybe before we go down that path, maybe Pete, you can give us a little bit of your background and how you stumbled into SEO in the first place.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. But this weather is just flawless. No, I'm kidding. My background, I'd happy to. So I'll give you the short-ish version because I don't want to yap people's ear off. I never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. Middle school, high school. I majored in music most of my college career, right up until the point where I didn't, and I quit 3 years in because I didn't really want to be a musician. I didn't want to be a band director. I didn't want to do that. So I tried a business major. Kind of weird. I was just like, oh, I want to own my own business one day. Just a happy little thought in the back of my head. It was terrible. The business major in college. I switched over to Italian. I don't know why I did that, but I just did. I
You
was
Italian? You Italian, Pete?
no, no, I don't
You had a
speak a lick of Italian.
you had a crush that happened to be Italian, and you
No,
need
I
to get
wasn't
them
even that. It
memory.
was
Okay.
that would have been at least a much better story. Doesn't matter. So I switched to sociology because I had one sociology class and I was like, I actually like the subject. That's as far as I got. So I got my degree in sociology, 2008, 2009, financial crisis. When
Mm.
first of all, there's not a lot of sociology jobs, careers in the market, anyways, and then none at that point. So I actually ended up going back to school for accounting. It's a long story, which I won't tell, but I enjoyed it. And money, accounting, I saw a connection in my head. I just wanted a job, right? So I got a job. After a couple of years, I got my grad degree, I got my CPA license, I got my first grown up job in accounting. And you could probably guess where the story is going a little bit. I hated it. Corporate America, clocking in, clocking out, commuting in Atlanta traffic for hours a day, and it's miserable. My job was easy. I loved my coworkers, but just unfulfilling, all the things. So, to actually answer your question, a couple of years prior to that, I stumbled upon blogging, just like online diary sort of blogging, like 2008, 2009, Blogspot, totally just rambling, but I just really enjoyed it. I liked building the website. I enjoyed just typing and sharing things. I could have something I could share on MySpace or Facebook by that time, probably. I just enjoyed the process, right? So over the next couple of years, I started a couple of different blogs just on hobbies, stuff I was passionate about, not to make money at all. So when I was in accounting and I hated it and I wanted to quit, I wanted to get out, I started searching for alternatives, entrepreneurship, side hustles. How can I make money? How can I quit accounting? How could I do something different? And I started over that like 8-year time span. I started like 50 plus online businesses, some in e-com, some just like websites where I try to make affiliate and ad revenue, and some other stuff thrown in between, all of which failed for the most part. To sum this story up, I found a job at a startup that was like part-time, but they were going to pay me benefits. So I quit my accounting job. I took this job at a startup. My wife was pregnant with our second kid. We moved across the state. She quit her work. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to start side hustles and I don't have to commute anymore. And win, win, win. Well, they paid me one paycheck and then I got laid off because they didn't have any money. And so I had to decide, should I go back to accounting? I've already sold my house. My wife's already quit her work. I've already moved, right? Or can I try out this full-time entrepreneurship thing? So I did what any future podcaster would do. That was a little bit of sarcasm in there. I called up some friends who I had met just over the years along the way, bloggers, content creators, and I asked them, please just let me interview you. Teach me. Teach me everything you know. I interviewed people that were making money. Actually, it wasn't even an interview. I just called them. I was like, please help me. I have to figure this out. I don't want to go back to accounting. And they graciously agreed. I was at least smart enough to record it and release it. And that was the Do You Even Blog podcast. That was 7.5 years ago. I have not looked back since. I've written over like 2,500 blog posts over the years. I've had probably like 75 websites at this point for like various stuff, maybe like 20, 30 of which were like blogs, content stuff. I have 2 YouTube channels. I have 2 podcasts. I have a number of SaaS products that I've coded over the past couple of years. Like at this point, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a solo entrepreneur, and I've been doing it full time for about 8 years.
Very interesting. It's funny. It's interesting. A lot of your beginnings is similar to the way I started it with music as well. Like yourself, went from music into coming back to Canada. I was living in Japan, came back to Canada, tried to figure out a way to get into music somehow, some way, and actually make money. So I started an online radio station, trying to make affiliate money, but figured out pretty quickly. Amateur musicians don't make a lot of money, and there's not really much money in that game. So I pivoted and actually started a social media agency, and it went from there. But what's interesting is you talk about a lot of different avenues that you're now touching on. Is there one of those avenues that's generating more revenue than the rest, or do you find it's a sum of all parts?
I would like to tell people that I'm intentionally unfocused. And it took me a long time to figure out that that's the phrase that I wanted to share with people. For a long time, I just thought it was a lack of focus. And I was all over the place. Topic, industry, niche wise, as well as format wise. I mentioned in there like YouTube, podcasts, websites, SaaS, like all these other things. I'm going to be really honest with you. I eventually got to a point where I was making enough money that I didn't have to worry about going back to accounting. And when that happened, this is about 4 years ago. When that happened, I started pivoting everything I do in work, everything from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, to try and only do what I want. It sounds stupid, and it also sounds very obvious. But I'm actually shocked how many people don't actually try to do that. Like it sounds like, why would I? Is that even possible? No, it's impossible. Well, I do what I want these days, and what that looks like is wherever my interests lie. Like this hobby comes up every couple of months. I build a brand around it. I start coding things based on a pain point I have in the moment, and maybe it turns into a larger business, maybe not. But honestly, it's I hate to use the words like I follow my passion. It sounds ridiculous, but I really do follow where my energy lies. And it just so happens that that's kind of been all over the place. Now, you asked about money. It changes. For about 2 years, my websites were by far the bulk of my income. SEO, a little bit of Pinterest here and there, a little bit of social media here and there. I ran Facebook ads for years and years, and those died completely in 2022 and last year. The helpful content update, fall 23, that update actually like kind of crushed my last remaining site that was like several $1,000s a month. It was like nothing now. And so I got really lucky, by the way. I had started my pivot before that happened. So now the SaaS products, and I have like 6 of them total, those are by far what are providing my income. Now, I don't like the volatility. I don't necessarily, it's kind of stressful from time to time. But on one hand, I'm a little bit to blame because I really like to follow my passion, really just follow my energy. I really like that. And I'm willing to give up some of my income to do it. So I
That's
hope I
it.
answered your question there, Jay. Yeah, that was
100%. That's an insane yet respectable way to move forward. It's not sacrificing. You're sacrificing money to do what you
oh, yeah.
want, which is quite ballsy, right? Like I think the easy thing to do for most people is just being like, hey, let me see, I can make X amount doing this or just a little bit doing this. But that little bit naturally turns into something much greater when you're passionate about it and you're dedicating your life to it. And you're not just clocking out at 5:01 because you have to. You're sitting there working on it through the endless nights, I'm sure, to get to that end result, which just so happens to be this probably same income you would have generated with option A anyway, right? You
It's
know,
possible.
you can sit
Yeah.
there and do SEO for some insurance company that you care nothing about, or do your projects and over time, through the hard work and effort, make the equivalent or probably more and higher
Yeah.
ceilings on that stuff as well, right?
Yeah. I think sorry, to continue your train of thought there. Another thing I'm quite proud of, I would say, is that I can do just about anything if I need to and if I have to. Every now and then, I would say like once a year, like clockwork almost. There's some month where I'm like, okay, these things aren't working. I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing. It used to be like once every 2 months that I felt this way, like a little bit of depression, frustration, anxiety. I don't know what I'm doing. The bottom of the entrepreneur emotion roller coaster, right? But I think at this point, after years and years of doing this and failing here and succeeding there, I think I've built up some interesting skill sets that makes it a lot easier to fall back on. I could go back and triple down on YouTube. I could freelance as an editor or a YouTube
Mm.
producer. I've done a little bit of that. I could go back and freelance write, which that actually sounds terrible. I don't actually think I could do that this day. But the point is, like, through working on a little bit of everything, I do think it's kind of reduced my stress and anxiety by giving me a bunch of different skill sets, which I can kind of piece together. I can fall back on if need be. Anyways, I interrupted you. What were you?
No, no, you're bang on. I mean, I think I guess one of my questions or one of the things that I find challenging is understanding when is the right time to pivot. Because in a lot of those cases, when you go down an avenue, especially as an entrepreneur, you hit those inevitable roadblocks where it's like, oh man, is this maybe a bad decision? Should I fold up shop and try something new? Press the reset button, or power through this challenge and see what's on the other side of that wall. But it's tough to have that sort of foresight or visibility into whether or not this is a good path to go down. Do you have any hacks around that? Like, what have you done in the past to kind of be like, you know what? There's some challenges here. I'm going to do what I can to overcome them and not try the shiny new thing passing by.
Hacks? No. But like I mentioned already, I think I've failed more than most people. Meaning I'll just say entrepreneurs. A lot of entrepreneurs. There's like the huge, mega successful ones everybody knows about. But then there's like 3 billion people on the planet who have tried something. Maybe it's just a side hustle. Maybe it's something like that. I feel like I have a lot more failures than the average entrepreneur who's not like a billionaire. That's not who I'm talking about. And I got to say, it took me a while to really give up on Do You Even Blog? Meaning the podcast I started, it was always earning a little bit. It was enough not to go back to accounting, but it's never felt that easy. And I didn't quit because I wanted to focus, focus, focus. People told me I wasn't focusing enough. I wanted to stick with it or whatever. I started a few, well, I guess you could just call them side hustles, about 4 years ago, off of Do You Even Blog? Completely different niche, new topics, nothing to do with digital marketing, online entrepreneurship, online business, nothing. And it was absolutely shocking when I saw how much easier it was. Not all of them. There were like 2 or 3 failures, but 1 or 2 of which were like, oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Like, oh, I've forgotten what success feels like. To answer your question, ever since that year, I look for that immediately in every single project I touch. I am like, I need to use my spidey senses here, right? Is it going to work or is it not? Is it going to make me money? Is it going to make me happy? If not, I try and kill it off as fast as humanly possible. And again, I just think it comes through years of sucking, years of not having that, years of failing and failing and failing, and finally seeing something
How
take
do you
off.
know though? How do you know it's a failure? And when you have a mentality of never giving up, that's very tricky to just give up on something and call it a failure.
Yeah, it's not a success. How do I know
Mm.
anything is a failure? It's not a success. I've never sold one website. I've never, well, actually, I was going to say I've never deleted one website. I do have some domain names that I let lapse and whatever. That was like years and years ago. But everything I have started, every project, every niche site, every YouTube channel, every podcast in the past like 6 years is still operational. You can still go find it on the internet. And part of the reason that is not necessarily that they have failed completely and I will never touch them again. It's that they weren't immediately successful. I mean, it sounds kind of lame to say it that way, but maybe long term they won't be failures. I don't know, but they weren't immediately or obviously successful. And I still have started enough things that have been like, I'm not talking like billionaire status, but there's been like 5 or 6 projects over the past couple of years that were obviously getting traction. I mean,
Mhm.
really clearly, like this is so much easier. I'm hitting some pain points here. I'm discovering a new untapped audience or something, right? So how do I know if they're failures? I don't, but they
You know,
weren't
but
clearly
but
successful.
but you have went ahead and created an entrepreneurial garden and planted all of these seeds, and the ones that are growing the fastest without your touching or hand holding are the ones that you're obviously maybe dedicating a little more attention to, as opposed to the ones that are still seeds. They may be sprouting a little bit, but they're definitely not. They require a lot of TLC to be able to grow to the potential that some of these other endeavors are generating for you, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting, and naturally, I think that's a great point. Like we historically, we've planted a lot of seeds. We gave a crack at certain things, like our own e-commerce product. Wreaths was such a niche, but we saw an opportunity for wreaths, so we started generating sales. We did all the online marketing stuff correctly, ranked it right under Home Depot and Lowe's for wreaths around Christmas season. Believe it or not, I learned through that experience there is such thing as like a Thanksgiving wreath. I didn't know that. But through this whole experience, like we realized, okay, we can generate leads, we can generate sales online, but holy shit, they're finding a fulfillment solution became the problem. Sourcing local fulfillers of wreaths became our biggest headache. They couldn't keep up with the demand. They had all these customization questions, this and that, and they were so archaic with the way they did their sales. It's not like they had a platform that they used to create these wreaths and sell wreaths. So that became a huge obstacle for us. But through that, we realized like, hey, we can do this, but holy shit, it's going to require a lot of time and effort to get to the
And
holy
you never
grail.
would have known that until you'd actually done it.
Would never known, right? Unless we did it. We have such an oversight to understand that, wow, fulfillment is a real problem, and nobody wants shitty wreaths from China, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's interesting. So let's talk about what's hot right now. What is actually working for you? Obviously the AI tools seem like one that's hit.
Yeah. The pivot I mentioned a little earlier, it was actually before a lot of my content sites got crushed by Google updates and some got hacked, by the way. It was a big mess for like 6 months there. Just before that was when ChatGPT came on the scene, right? It kind of changed things. And I was actually in AI way before that. I was in GPT-2 beta from OpenAI. And I saw ChatGPT, and my first instinct was like the rest of us, like, oh, wow, man, so many opportunities here. Creating content, blog posts and articles and whatever for SEO and marketing. Yeah, great. I saw something else around that time. March 2022, I think is when that 23. I don't know. 2 months, 3 months after ChatGPT came on, I found it for coding. So my background, I'm not a developer per se, although I don't know, maybe you could actually consider me a developer these days. I'd always dabbled in code. I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was fun. HTML, CSS, I've known for like 20 years. I dabbled in JavaScript and Ruby on Rails just because it's kind of fun. I thought I might actually be an iOS developer, like as a career trajectory at one point, because I really enjoyed that. But I never actually shipped any product. And part of the reason is just because even once you take a couple of coding classes or you do it for like a couple of weeks, a couple of months, even there's actually still a big jump between understanding code and like syntax and languages and stuff like that to actually shipping a product for production and getting users and charging people for it. There's a huge gap, right? No one talks about this enough, by the way. People who teach coding, they don't talk about this enough. But ChatGPT for me was that bridge. I was like, I know enough about code where now I can start to use these chatbots and AI and so on and so forth to step it up a notch, to take it up a level. And 3 months later, I'd say 2 months later, I had my first live app. I built something. It's live on the internet. You can go sign up. People were paying me for it. Not very much. It was kind of a weird thing. And actually, it wasn't even that great. But it just happened to be in the AI space as well. Like AI is hot right now. I actually enjoy building AI tools, but I also utilize that AI really early on to try and like ship software, SaaS products and companies. And I don't remember your original question, but I also just want to underscore I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it
Never
wasn't
look back
really a
2 years
question.
later.
It was a bit of a segue because it's talking about where you saw success in the AI space, how you came across that success in the AI space, and what kind of drove you down that rabbit hole. So naturally, you came into, obviously we got to talk about it. TopicalMap.ai,
Yeah.
which is one of the tools that you invented and came up with and has proven to be a success in its short time that it's come to fruition.
Yeah. I think TopicalMap.ai is the perfect example of scratching your own itch, so to speak. It's a funny thing. Once you learn how to code, you start to like just magically have a bajillion ideas every day, all the time. And you said the word like invented it, I think was the phrase you used.
Invented.
It's so weird for me to think about it that way. I'm not calling myself an imposter or a fraud per se, but to me, it just feels like, well, actually, like anybody could do some of these things for Topical Map AI or any of the bajillion. I know you're involved with Cuppa, like AI that writes blog posts. Well, people can write their own blog posts. Well, people can do their own keyword research and all this other things. It's just making it a little bit easier, or sometimes a lot easier, and faster, and so on and so forth. So the genesis. Let me tell you the origin story because I think this is perfect.
Mm.
3 years ago, I never would have had this thought, but in January of this year, 2024, I bought services from somebody who shall not be named, and they did a great job, by the way. That's not my point. For a topical map for a website. I had an idea for a site. I still think it's a brilliant idea. We actually ended up doing the site. I don't remember how much it costs, but it was thousands of dollars. And it took over a month. It was $1,000 and like 5 weeks for a deliverable. I hired this company. They do this all the time. It's an agency. They gave me a deliverable. Great. They did a fantastic job. But in my head, I'm thinking, dude, couldn't I just do like, even if my stuff with AI is not quite as good as their entire team took them 5 weeks to do,
Mm.
could I still like get something to that effect? And so I started tinkering a little bit. This is what I do as a developer, as a coder now. I'm like, oh, just let me tinker. Just let me see. And it was only like a week and a half worth of work for version 1 where I could, I mean, honestly, just fire off a few prompts in sequence. And then the rest of the code was like a bunch of formatting and stuff on that, like user experience for looking at the data. And sure enough, I was like, oh, okay. This didn't cost me, I mean, even a fraction of what the agency charged. And it took 60 seconds. And I was
Mm.
like, okay, I like this. This is scratching my own itch to the nth degree. And so I initially just released it to my email list. It was mostly creators, anyways. I got probably like 150 people. It was just like a one-time payment at that time because there was only like one one little function that this tool did. But I don't know, it just kind of built on itself, and a few more people used it, a few more people noticed it, and now there's, more and more features, which I think are more and more exciting and hit more pain points. But yeah, just started from a little scratch your own itch sort of thing.
So talk to me like I'm two here and tell me exactly what Topical Map does. What's the use case and who it serves?
It's a great question. At this point, I'm going to be a little broad intentionally. Topical Map AI serves almost all types of content creators in some way. Probably SEOs, marketers, and bloggers more so than others. Most of the features are geared towards, I'm not going to say keyword research, but let me say topical research. Do you want me to break down what that is, Jay,
Yeah.
a little bit? So it stems from this idea. There's two ideas. Number one, Google needs to see you as an authority on your subject. This is called topical authority. It's been around for years, and people kind of understand what that is. You produce content, you have backlinks from trustworthy sites. All of this serves to tell Google's and tell readers, by the way, I am an authority on this topic. Okay, so that's part one. Keyword research, especially like old school keyword research, used to be, let's find some terms. Maybe it's like a 2-word query or a 5-word long tail keyword or something like that, that people are searching for, that we might be able to rank for. We'll say, oh, here is a search term. Oh, this one's actually getting several hundred search volume a month, and there's not a lot of big sites on page one, and it's on my general niche. I should write a blog post about that. Do that times 1,000, and that was keyword research, right? Let me find 10 articles, 50 articles, 100 article ideas that I think I might be able to rank for. So that's not necessarily the way to do it anymore. And this has been the case for several years, by the way. This isn't anything brand new. What you might want to do instead is focus on these topics. And by these topics, I mean, what are those topics, right? Focus on a number of topics that completely cover a subject, because that's going to help Google understand what your site's about. It's going to help tell Google that you are an authority on your topic. This is topical authority. This is topical mapping. A map is basically just means, what topics am I talking about? How are they related? So what that process looks like is first figuring out the topics, the big broad topics, the subtopics underneath that, and then the subtopics underneath that, and the subtopics underneath that, and grouping them into little clusters that you can write about, you can do internal linking with, and just understanding the topics on your website as a whole and how that's going to contribute to ranking better and getting more traffic. I tried to break that down, Jay.
That was fantastic. And as a user myself, I find it's actually quite fun to play around with this tool because, I'll give you an example. I created a map for AI chatbot, AI for small business, and I put it in there as a topic, and it gave me all these fantastic micro topics, which I can so pick and so choose to write about if I wish, right? Like 5 mind-blowing ways AI chatbots are revolutionizing customer service. And the topic here is customer service. Subtopic, AI-powered customer service chatbots. Then that micro topic, that 5 mind-blowing ways AI chatbots are revolutionizing customer service. Fantastic. And there's hundreds of them here. If I go down, the topic, operations. Subtopic, predictive inventory management. The shocking truth about AI-powered stock management. Random. Let me go down one more. Finance and analytics topic. Keep in mind, I did not ask it to give me these topics. It just spit it out to me. Finance and analytics. Subtopic, AI-driven financial forecasting. Microtopic, unlock hidden profits. AI financial forecasting secrets revealed. These are all just fantastic ideas. Could I conjure these up myself? No chance. Could I put a prompt in the chat GPT? Sure. But all the work's already done. All the heavy lifting's already done by Topical Map AI. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I think AI is phenomenal at brainstorming. It just is. Whether it's write me a story I can tell my 7-year-old for a bedtime story tonight, or whether it's give me 1,000 keywords on personal finance. I think what Topical Map AI does is that step, brainstorming, first of all, but then also categorizing and recategorizing and formatting, and then double checking to make sure every single topic is, I'm going to say, unique. What it basically means, there's no duplicates, there's not a lot of duplicates, and every single topic, every single article has its place on the overall website. And then showing you how these topics are related to these topics. Here's this category on your site. Here's this silo of content. Do this. Internal link these topics, these posts, and that sort of stuff.
I think one of the beautiful things about it as well is it's not a complicated tool to use. Like a lot of these SEO AI tools can be quite convoluted, complex to use if you're just some small business owner that does a solopreneur that does a lot of this stuff on their own. I think Topical Map AI is very attractive to those small business owners. Maybe Pete, you can give us kind of a use case on how a local landscaper would use Topical Map AI.
I think there's three, and there's actually three types of maps, topical maps, that Topical Map AI does. One is SEO. If you're talking about landscaping or even local SEO or just a internet blogger or whatnot, this is where you're going to find out what to write about. Even if you already have a site, by the way, if this landscaper has a site with a dozen articles, maybe 30 articles on it, put in landscaping. Or maybe be more specific. You can run as many maps as you want to, right? Like landscaping in northern Michigan, whatever that is, and see what you're missing. See where your content that you've already written exists within the whole map, and see what else you need to produce. Or if you're starting from scratch, again, put in landscaping. 1 minute later, you have a map of topics that you could write and that you should write that cover the topic completely, right? 1,000 articles. Not that that's going to happen overnight unless you're using Cuppa. But there's two more things. Number two, there's also what I called social first maps. This is really new for a lot of creators out there. There's a few former SEOs turned social media marketers exclusively in the past like a year. They've just been calling their approach like social first. It's a different type of content than traditional SEO blogging. What it is a little bit more clickbaity, a little bit more BuzzFeed, right? That will work well on Facebook, Pinterest, or maybe even stuff like YouTube or TikTok as well. And so Topical Map starts the same way. It generates topics, it generates subtopics, and then it generates a lot of article ideas specifically for like social going viral per se. You can, it gives you the titles. You can see them. They're a little bit more clickbaity, a little bit more BuzzFeedy. And then the last one, I'm stoked about this. I don't even know if you've seen this yet, Jay. I just released this yesterday. It's still a little clunky. I'm working out the errors right now. Don't have to tell anybody that. But product maps. So I think let's go back to the landscaper a little bit. If you entered landscaping into the product map and hit enter, it's going to generate a bunch of topics, a bunch of subtopics, just like some of the other SEO maps and stuff like that, but also a bunch of product ideas, free products, freebies, how to get people in the door, online products like webinars, courses, ebooks, challenges, printables, checklists, spreadsheets. I have like a list of like 50 product categories, types of products, and it just goes through and spits out like pain points. It gives you product ideas, title examples, price point ideas. Like it's useful if you're starting from scratch, but it's actually even more interesting if you have an existing business, even landscaping, even a local restaurant, to add some things to your business model to get people on the door, freebies, marketing related, or if you already have a course or a program or SEO agency services, bonuses, more deliverables for your clients. It kind of, again, it's just brainstorming and categorizing new ways to make money or get more customers, if that
I
makes any
love it.
sense.
I love that. And I mean, another piece here is, I mean, the product idea map is fantastic, but even that social first map, because you referred to it a lot in a lot of cases as these are great articles you can write, but it can also be, these could be TikTok posts. These could be Instagram reels. Like these are great content ideas that are not just limited to writing. Right.
100%.
Yeah. So,
and it goes a little bit deeper than pickleball serve technique. I played pickleball this morning. That's the top of my head. That would be a topic idea. Pickleball serve technique. But I think if you put pickleball into Topical Map AI for SEO, it's going to do a little bit more analytical research, and it's going to try and find where that fits on your site exactly from a topics perspective. And it also does like a little bit of search analysis. Like we use Google Keyword Planner to pull monthly search volume and stuff like that. Like it's going to do a little bit of that. The social map will give you the article idea that's a little bit more specific than that. It might be 3 tips. I was trying to think of an article idea off the top of my head. This is why I use the tool, by the way, because I can't do this as well. 7 tips beginners need to know to dominate the pickleball serve. That's a lot more specific, and it's an easier recipe to follow if you're on LinkedIn or Facebook or TikTok or YouTube or an article. So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I just find the specificity a lot more useful, a lot more actionable.
I see also another portion of it, which is down the pipe, is question map.
Yeah.
So question map. Talk to me a bit about the use case for question map.
I think there's 2. I think what I'm trying to build in question mark, which is not live at the time of this recording, I wanted to pull people also ask from Google search results. So it's going to brainstorm topics and subtopics and subtopics, micro topics. That's fine. I'm going to have that data. And then we're going to run it through Google search results for all the subtopics, and we're going to find the questions. We're going to find that people also ask. We're also going to pull the search volume for that sort of stuff. That's one thing. So that could be SEO content for sure. But part of the brilliance about questions is that you could use that content for just about anything. You could put that on your homepage if you run a landscaping business. What are people asking? What do people want to know about my business before they call me, before they hire me? What are those questions? I don't know. You could get ideas for that sort of stuff. FAQs on your homepage. It could also be social content. Like, what are the rules of pickleball? I know that's a silly broad one, right? What are the serving rules of pickleball? You might actually be blown away by how difficult that is. And so, again, it's just going to be getting a bunch of ideas, specifically questions, and then it's going to be categorizing them, recategorizing them so that you can produce content. Maybe it's social, maybe it's SEO, maybe it's other. It's going to help you get a better idea of what you need to produce for your audience.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. Pete, where do you see, I mean, maybe specifically to yourself, where do you see the AI game going? How long do you see this continuing the way it is? And how, if you look into your crystal ball, where do you see things shaping up in the next couple of years?
That's a great question. I am one of the people who think it's going to infiltrate literally everything we do. I don't necessarily think we're going to have another really huge explosion. I think it's going to be like 2 or 3 times a year we get a big step up. And maybe it is something I was just thinking about this morning. Alexa, Siri, like these voice integrations, which have already been around for years, are kind of just now starting to integrate AI just a little bit more. That's going to be a big step up when the Apple AI does finally release and so on and so forth. But it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be literally everywhere. And it's not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing or a good thing. I think it just is what's going to happen. It's already in your inbox, Gmail or Outlook, or it's already on your phone. It's already on your computer. It's already on your podcast editing software. It's already on your video editing software. It's everywhere. And it's already making your way into your vehicles, right? The more updates we see, smarter cars, smarter phones, smarter everything, smarter wearables, glasses, rings, watches, everything. So that's my only prediction I feel confident to make is that there's going to be more of that everywhere. But I'm not a doom and gloom AI type of person either. I think it's just the way life is now.
I've gotten increasingly impatient with my Alexa, with its need for me to repeat questions, its lack of knowledge. And I said to my wife, the minute OpenAI comes out with their own version of Alexa or Google Echo, is the day I'm going to be purchasing that.
Can I give you one more example?
Yes.
This came up in conversation. So my wife is a teacher, and I was hanging out with her and some of her other coworkers, teachers, right? A teacher is me and like 6 other teachers having this conversation. And we were talking about this grade and, oh, I don't do a whole lot of homework here, or this child really struggles with completing homework in class and all this other stuff. And then somebody started talking about AI. And they said, like, oh, well, yeah, it's already kind of hard. Like, should we allow AI written papers and like all this other stuff? And I just kind of raised my hand and I said, I want to paint a picture for you guys really quick. We're not that far away from a kid walking into your class who's wearing glasses. And I literally like held up my glasses because I'm wearing glasses, who won't have to do anything. His glasses are going to have a camera. It's going to have an AI in like literally the hardware, the firmware, like inside the glasses, and it's going to whisper in his ear. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. And he's going to read this page and get a perfect score on your test. Why? Because he's attached to OpenAI right there. Like we're not that far away from that, right?
And is there a problem with that? Is there a
I don't know.
problem with that? Look, I teach. I'm a professor, part-time professor at a local college, and I teach a course on leading change in digital tourism, which actually a component of the course is talking about AI and tourism. And can I get mad at students for using ChatGPT to churn out answers when they're just being resourceful? You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Like, inevitably, I believe we're going to get there. And why should I punish a kid for being more resourceful than another, where another one just being more archaic in the way they go about their research, right? So it's something that's naturally. I mean, it makes sense for for teachers to bring this up because I think it's inevitable. And like to your point, it's going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Oh, sorry.
No, hit that.
We mentioned software. Only because I've been dabbling in Cove the past couple of years and I really enjoy it. I think we're not there yet, so I don't want to kill off my own work, by the way. But I can actually see a future where nobody pays for any software, period, whatsoever. Like you can think of all the softwares that you pay for right now. Your computer is going to have such capabilities where you can say, like, you can just tell it what to do. It doesn't matter. Like you might not even have any programs on your computer. It's just going to be your computer. And Apple is just going to have the Apple interface, and it's literally just going to be Siri. You're going to do everything via Siri. You're going to check your email from Siri. You're going to fire up a podcast recording from Siri. You're going to like do literally everything. You're going to write blog posts. You're going to produce topical maps. You're going to do everything right there because that's where we're going, right? Like, I don't know. I could see literally nobody paying for any software ever again in the next like 10 years.
Yeah, and you said that to me when I spoke with you a few months back, and you just keep going. No, you mentioned something similar to that, but nothing has changed in terms of that trajectory. I think you're absolutely dead on right. Like, who's to say that? It's just a race to see who that company is. Is it going to be OpenAI? Is it going to be HubSpot? Is it going to be who knows who it's going to be? Who's going to be that emerging company that encompasses all of these AI tools in the one-stop shop, so you don't have to keep paying dozens of companies for your subscriptions on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. And I thought about that. I think about it all the time since that first conversation we have. And that was a projection you have. And I'm like, damn, I'm spending a lot on all these AI tools. This is silly.
Yeah, bro.
Inevitable. Yeah. Well, Pete, if our audience has any questions for you or wants to reach out, the socials, where can they catch up with you?
Yeah. I think I would like to point people to PeteMcPherson.com. This has changed over the years, but more recently, I've been doing so much random stuff that I just have my name as a domain name, and that has a link to my weekly newsletter. I just send a roundup every week. It's like 4 or 5 cool things that I found on the internet, honestly. And it's mostly geared towards creators, but PeteMcPherson.com, and there's some links to socials there as well. So yeah, man. Thanks, Jay. And thanks for letting me talk about this stuff. Promote my own tools. This is great.
I love it. I love it. It's fantastic. And we'll be chatting to you again real soon. Thanks a lot, Pete.
Thanks, Jay.